And good morning, everybody. We are live. Congratulations. You made it through the week. Another week of amazing food safety, food quality, amazing products that we all enjoy every single day. And a lot of times in food safety, when you work in this area, you don't get the recognition for all the hard work that you do. So if nobody else says it, I and Tracy, we're going to say it to you today. Good job. You did a good job. We really appreciate all that you do. If you're new to the chat, welcome. Pull up a chair. My name is Brian Armentrout with the Food Leadership Group. And every Friday at this time, 8 a.m. Mountain Time, 10 a.m. Eastern, or wherever you are at in the world, we sit down and have a conversation on food safety with an expert. And what you'll notice with this is it's a conversation. This is not a preachy presentation. This is not a whole bunch of PowerPoint slides. This is meant for you because we firmly believe that food safety is not a point of competition. We all benefit from food safety and we all enjoy good food. So with that, I'm having new guests on. I love it when I have new guests on the chat. So as you can see here, Tracy, everybody's starting to file in. Cara, good morning. Ryan, good morning. Our loyal Illinois and Wisconsin folks. And I have on today Tracy Fink with the IFT, where you are the Director of Scientific Programs and Science Policy. How are you today, Tracy?
I am doing fabulous. Good morning, everyone. Happy Friday or Friday.
Yes. There you go. So one of the things we love to do on the chat here is where in the world are you at? So where are you, Tracy?
Oh, yes. I love it. It's like a Saturday Night Live spinoff of that, like live from New York.
Exactly.
I wish I was live from New York, but I'm actually live from Marshall, Minnesota.
Nice.
If you don't know where that is.
Is it pretty good weather or how's your weather looking?
It is beautiful weather. We do have a little bit of a thunderstorm maybe brewing, but it's beautiful here. It's been in the 70s. So we are out by the plains of the Dakota. So if you don't know where that is kind of like where, the disciples left their sandals out here in the plains. So where we had the T-Rex dinosaur be discovered in South Dakota. So I'm about 30 miles from the border of South Dakota.
Oh, nice. And I am in Loveland, Colorado, which is about an hour or so north of Denver, where today, August can be pretty hot here in Colorado. Going to be, what is it today? 85 degrees. So it's cooled down. It was in the 90s, which I'm like, oh, right. It's no fun. But luckily, we don't have the humidity that you guys get.
Yes, that's true. We have had, about 2 weeks ago, Brian, you would not want to visit Minnesota. It was so humid. We couldn't even go outside.
How have the bugs been this year? Have the bugs been good?
Yes, actually, they haven't been too bad. We do, our state bird is sometimes the mosquito, tongue in cheek there. But yes, they haven't been that bad, really. And I've been up north to the north woods of Minnesota and even here and in our yard. And, they come out around 9 o'clock, mosquitoes, but it hasn't been that bad.
That's good. Good. Cortland's down in looks like Dallas, Fort Worth area. Oh, 113. Oh, don't know.
Oh, I know. They're getting really hit with some weather down there.
It gets so humid in the Dallas, Fort Worth area too. Oh my goodness.
It does. I've flown into Dallas so many times in July. I can't even, probably at least a dozen or more. But what's interesting is the impact on food safety that has, because we need to do a call out to our cold chain. Thank you to the cold chain for keeping our food safe in these kind of weather conditions, and appreciate all of those frontline workers doing so.
Yeah. Well, and because, even the transportation side of things, because it's hard keeping that product cool and shipping when it's 113 degrees outside. And so you tend to get a lot of calls from logistics company and you're receiving at your plant saying, hey, Brian, we got some warm product here. What do you want to do? And then you got to work through that.
I know. We sometimes do forget how lucky we are to have the refrigeration and the opportunities to have both frozen and fresh products. And it is just an amazing feat that people do every day, day in and day out to be able to provide this. Honestly, other parts of the world, they don't have always that luxury. And hopefully what we can do in the roles that we have is make a difference to provide that someday. That's one of our BHAGs, right? Is to have healthy and sustainable nutrition for all in the world.
Absolutely. So thank you, Mr. Carrier. We appreciate your air conditioning.
Yes.
So one of the things we do love to do here on the chat, Tracy, and good morning, Elena, is share a drink of your favorite beverage with us, please.
I
So
do have
cheers.
one. Cheers. Yay. This is so fun. So I'm not a coffee drinker. However, in my defense, I love the smell of coffee. I love coffee houses. I love the smell. Brings me back great childhood memories of my dairy farm days when my parents would have company come over and my mom would make a chocolate cake and she would make coffee and we would sit there and talk with the nutritionist for the dairy cows or the DHIA representative or our creamery representative, things like that. So great memories. But I am actually drinking a cup of hot cocoa or hot chocolate. It is my preferred drink. I love cocoa. So please note in the chat, I am always open for gifts on cocoa.
I agree. Cocoa's awesome. So one of the things that we do here in the chat as well, Tracy, is I tell a dad joke. Are you ready?
Oh, yes, I am ready. I can't wait.
So what did the physicist, why did the physicist break up with the biologist?
I'm thinking it has to do with atoms. I don't know.
It was sad, but there was no chemistry.
Oh, I know. I should have like a drum set. Dum-dum-bum. Let's make my own.
You'll do that again.
That's pretty good.
Wah, wah, wah. Yeah, that was a good one, wasn't it?
I love it. I love the dad joke.
Well, and so we got a ton to go over here today, so we'll dive in. But your comment on AC, and so Elena's talking about walking in her freezer, which is awesome. That's a great way to cool down. But it's very interesting because you have these milestones that occur in food safety. So with the advent of refrigeration and frozen products, we had Bird's Eye and all these companies that produced all these amazing products at that point in time. But it also brought new risks. So now all of a sudden, listeria became a big problem because of refrigeration. And all of a sudden you have these emerging risks. And really in a lot of ways, Tracy, and I think this is really going to be our topic here for today, are these type of emerging risks. But before we get into that, and I really want to get the audience, used to you as well too, is for people who don't know you, is what do you do at IFT? What exactly does Scientific Programs and Science Policy Director do?
Yeah, I know it's a mouthful. I'm going to break it down. Okay. Just like in sanitation, we're going to break it down to its lowest level. How about that? So yes, my title, Director of Scientific Programs and Science and Policy Initiatives. It's a mouthful. What it really means in a nutshell here at IFT is that I have a 2-part role, and my first part, scientific programs, I am responsible. You know what? I'm going to do an analogy. It's Friday morning. We can really work with this. Let's, Brian, think of a beautiful orchestra. Okay. I think everybody can picture that in their mind and all the talented musicians that are playing. I would be the role of like the conductor. Okay. So I'm not the talented musician because that is actually made up of our phenomenal volunteers and members of IFT. They are the talented musicians that work day in and day out to provide programming for our constituents and our members and our audience. And so I'm really just the conductor of our beautiful members. So that scientific programs piece that I'm conducting would include the scientific program, which is our call for proposals. So if you want to be a speaker, we have 2 pathways, scientific and technical forums and individual presentations. You can speak at our annual event. We also have a call for questions, which is actually open now, by the way. So you can submit. Yes, anybody can submit ideas for questions to IFT. And so I think I might have some fellow IFTers. We'll make sure you guys get all that information. But even if you could just go to ift.org and call for questions, it should pop up, or Google it. You can submit what you think the hottest topics are. So I'm the conductor and orchestrator of that. And then also I manage and work with our team on keynotes, featured sessions, fireside chats, workshops, which are our courses, and just a variety of other things, webinars. That's the scientific programs piece of the title. And then the other part is science and policy initiatives. And I work with our team and lead our initiatives at IFT on behalf of the food safety program. And I work with phenomenal members. Shout out to Sarah. Shout out to others. Sarah, you know who you are. And Brian is our Chief Scientific Officer. And so we collectively work together and really promote our food safety initiatives. So that's kind of the twofold part that I have, if that makes sense.
No, that totally makes sense. And let me put it in the comments for everybody. So there's the main site for IFT.
Yeah.
And so something that a lot of people don't realize too are, well, number one, these events take an incredible amount of activity to plan. And if you're thinking about, hey, I would love to be a speaker, or I'm working on some really cool stuff that I think would be a great topic, is these are planned like a year in advance. So you can't say, oh, hey, cool, IFT is coming up in a month, I'm going to submit my proposal. Nope, doesn't work that way. These things take an incredible amount of planning, and they work well in advance. So if you're thinking about that, reach out early.
Yes. And in fact, that's a beautiful segue. So our call for questions, great reminder to me, Brian, is open until September 23rd. Okay. So you have, literally you have a month yet to submit. It's been open since about end of June, July. So we're still accepting for another month. And then in October, about early October to early December, we'll have a 2-month window for the call for proposals. So October to December, you can submit your ideas as a speaker, as a topic, and then those decisions will have a process. They will come out sometime by March 1, like right around there, March 3rd, whatever that work day is. I think it's March 3rd. So that's kind of the high level timeline. So thanks, Brian, for giving me an opportunity to say that.
Oh, no, absolutely. That's what we're here for. And a big chunk of what we do here on the Food Safety Chat, and really, Tracy, it's kind of sitting here in the background, boop, this guy back here, is I wrote a book around kind of my lessons on what I've learned in my career so far. And IFT is one of those groups that is at the forefront, because that's one of the things that we're constantly working on, is we need to bring in that next generation of food safety and quality professionals to keep this going. And, old guys like me, we're not going to be around all that much longer. And we have to train that new group. And so IFT does an amazing job with that. So thanks for doing that.
Thank you so much. And again, I shout out to our IFT members. In fact, I know there's IFT members on here. And hello, and thank you so much for joining. It really is a collective industry as far as the private-public partnerships, because the one thing that IFT does is we really bring together all of those different bodies and organizations. We have the academics with academia. We bring in industry, and of all types of industry, from bakery to ready to eat to harvest plants to fresh produce, seafood, you name it, and alternative proteins. And then we also bring in the regulatory and government officials. So it's just a really great opportunity to come together under one roof and have those candid conversations. I also want to say I was an IFT member before I became staff. I am also an IAFP member, and I have spoken several times at the Food Safety Summit and Food Safety Consortium. So I want to say a shout out to all of our wonderful food safety people. We are just a big family, honestly. Food safety professionals, we stick together.
Oh, no, absolutely. And really, one of the things, and this kind of goes into the theme of IFT and that next generation, is the next 10 years in what we do in food safety is going to be transformative. And the new technology and the things that are coming, it's going to be kind of the way we look at food safety from the 50s and 60s. It's like, oh, isn't that cute? What they used to do. And that's going to be what's going to be happening here in a very, very short period of time with AI and all those activities. And so as we were preparing for our chat here today, there's 6 pillars that IFT has that are core to what you do. And so we're like, well, let's kind of weave those into what we see in that future relative to AI. So today in our chat, and definitely guys, chime in here on what you think on these things too, but we're kind of, we're getting out that crystal ball and we're kind of looking at the future here.
I love it.
To see what we're thinking about here. And so really with AI, and as I was preparing this week and thinking about different things to talk about, Tracy, is we see all kinds of, we chat GTP and Grok on X and these type of things. How do you define AI? What's your current thinking around what is artificial intelligence?
Yeah. So great question. And you know what I'm going to do? I think I'm going to get the 800-pound gorilla out of the room right away. I'm one of those people, right? Just boom, boom, lay down the trump card.
Good.
I think that there's a perception that AI will replace people.
Mm.
And I think we need to have a mental paradigm shift in that thought process, because from a thought leadership standpoint, AI will, you need to think of it like this. AI will not necessarily replace you, but you may be replaced by people who use AI.
Ooh.
See what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So don't be afraid of change. Don't be afraid to embrace new opportunities and ways of doing things. You know, our 1980s self would not have accepted an iPhone. We weren't ready for it then, right? I mean, so our iPhone moment is AI. And what it really is, we did cover this in our opening keynote at the IFT First annual event and expo last month. And we did have the worldwide head of Amazon on our stage, and also the CEO of Neuritas, and we had the chief technology officer of Kellogg's and the vice president of data analytics at Refed. So we really brought in that circular economy from, you know, Internet of Things to a global CPG food company to the food waste and sustainability effort. And then with Neuritas, and if you're not familiar, they are out there doing things with, you know, bioinformatics and mathematical algorithms that no one has ever done before, and working with polymers. So we really took it up a notch with that opening keynote as far as AI. And they talked about that terminology of AI, and it's just really an opportunity to use those platforms such as ChatGPT, I'll just say that one, to do your work faster and to help you do that task in, it's not even half the amount of time. I would say it's like in seconds instead of hours. So utilizing it to help you do thought processes, to help you think of ways that you want to do a template. You know, and the thing is, in food safety, we have a lot of SSOPs or just standard operating procedures. It can help you develop a great SOP based off of the information it has, so you don't have to completely start from scratch. And I think somewhere I read, Brian, that you had something on your website about how would you know to do a great food safety management system template if you've never seen a great one before. I thought I read that somewhere. Yeah. So AI and ChatGPT could really help you with catapulting those skill sets. I mean, it's really endless. So I hope I'm not going on a soapbox, but I also hope that helps you. I don't want to use the definitions that they used on stage. I'd have to pull up those slides, to be honest with you. But at a high level, it's really an artificial intelligence is a way for us to do our jobs more efficiently, better, and at a higher quality level, and utilizing our human skill sets yet too.
Absolutely. And so kind of the way I think of it is, number one, yeah, I agree. So Neil Bogart was on, and we did a deep dive into ChatGPT for use in like putting together a food safety plan. Yes. And the bottom line is it can help you. It cannot replace you. So what Neil learned, and the big lesson coming out of that was, if you don't know the question to ask, it's worthless, right? So, and you just can't say, hey, ChatGPT, write me a food safety plan for a cheese plant. No, it's going to be garbage. You have to get into the details, and that's where it can get dangerous. And a lot of times you hear of the Dunning-Kruger effect, where you get a little bit of knowledge and you think you're an expert. The real experts are like, oh my God, no, this is, we're just scratching the surfaces. I'm still learning, right? Experts are the first to admit that they don't know a whole lot. Watch out for people who claim to be experts and have all the answers, because there's problems coming. So the way I think of it, Tracy, is AI is here to help us kind of with, and the way I'm looking at it in the boxes where I think it's going to help us the most first are going to be tasks which are mundane or boring, for lack of a better word. And I think it kind of goes into these 6 pillars of what we're talking about here today. So for example, the first one is the codex. Right? So I don't know about you, but when Codex Alimentarius comes out with a new standard or new requirements or things like this, I don't go, yay, I can't wait to pour through it and read all of that information. No, right? And really, I think AI can help us with those type of things. So for your first pillar that you work on at IFT is the Codex. So first off, what do you do with that? And how do you see AI helping with understanding that?
Yeah. Oh, thank you. It's exciting, actually. It is. I mean, I know you said it was boring, but it actually is exciting in this day and age to be with Codex and to put AI in the same sentence as that. What we do here at IFT is we actually serve on 3 different committees, and those committee names are extremely long, and I don't want to get them wrong because I know this is a casual conversation, but the net of it is that we have team members here at IFT that, and I would be one of the team members, but we may do a comment or we may submit on behalf of IFT and our constituents our opinion or comments to a specific subject that they're looking to receive feedback on. And then we work directly with the Codex leadership and working on those committees. We have an amazing person here that leads that initiative, and Codex is one of our 6 pillars for IFT food safety. And what AI and Codex and how it's going hand in hand is Codex is also looking at how is AI going to impact that and in the future. So hats off to Codex for already having the conversation. They're already building things out, and they've got some, if you Google that, they've got some documentation out there as to how we, may need to harmonize standards and AI integration. It could help enhance risk assessments, Brian. One thing, and you're going to know this as a longtime food safety thing, is we do not have a global harmonization of food safety because of the different countries and continents and all the different regulatory agencies. We have USD, FDA here, we have CFAA, we have EFSA, we have all the things, right? And so what it could do, and it's to be determined, is it may help with regulatory alignment and compliance. It's smart enough to pull in all of those different jurisdictions. And maybe we can get there because a human mind, it's been very complicated for us to develop something like that. We've seen food magazines. All of us have read articles for decades on, global harmonization of food safety, right? And we're not there yet. And it's year 2024. But it also may help with, just facilitating that global collaboration, Brian.
Can AI then be used to summarize Codex? If I was to ask a question in ChatGPT, would it be able to do that?
Yeah. I mean, it could probably, here's the thing. I want to give a word of advice. When you are working with a ChatGPT, you need to tell it what type of persona to play. So one of the rules of thumb is, if I could give you any nugget on how to use AI, you need to be very conversational, first of all. So talk to it like you and I are talking, Brian. And I'm not kidding. Talk to it like you're talking to a friend. But then you should tell it what friend you want to show up. So you can sit down and say, I need you to be a global food safety consultant that specializes on Codex, period, send. It will come back and say, great, I am da-da-da, I'm nice to meet you, I'm ready. And then you can say, I need you to take this Codex committee, whatever the piece of it is, let's just say it's sanitation, the work on sanitation or the code that's on that. And it says, I need you to break that down at a high level for me. It can do that. Yeah. It'll pull in all the different sources it has access to and pull it in.
Wow.
It's amazing.
That's really cool.
And I hope I'm giving you some nuggets as to how to use it better.
Well, here's what's kind of cool. I can pull up screens. So for example here, so to your point, then we'll play around here a little bit, Tracy. So I need you to be an expert. Okay, so I'll put this first. I need you to be an expert in global food safety. Boop. Okay.
Yep, there you go. Perfect. See?
Absolutely. All right. So here are some of the key areas of focus.
Okay.
Cool. Look at that. Okay. So what should I ask next? What were you saying?
So tell it, I now need you to be a specific expert in Codex Alimentarius. I would spell the whole thing out so it knows, because we refer to it as Codex, but Codex Alimentarius. Yep, ALIMTAI. US, just a US. There you go. Perfect.
And there we are.
And then just send that off and see what it says. Trying to see the screen.
Sure.
Okay.
Objectives and purpose, fair trade practices, consumer protection, food safety. Awesome. Look at that.
So then you might now, it would probably be under standards and guidelines. What should we ask it specifically that you want to learn about, Brian? What are you thinking?
Let's see. Under standards and guidelines.
Yeah.
Tell me about updates to the code for Listeria, let's say.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah. Let's see what it says.
Let's see what it says.
Has specific guidelines for managing Listeria.
Okay.
Look at it go. Okay. Definitely. So it's focusing here on ready to eat. Great.
Yep.
So general guidelines and standards. So now it's pointing you to different standards, which is awesome.
Yes.
So as you were talking about, so with ready to eat, high risk, right? So frozen foods, and we've seen some issues with that recently. Food hygiene, and then recent updates and key changes, monitoring and surveillance. EM. So we've been talking a lot about environmental monitoring here on the chat.
Yes.
Control measures for sanitation and risk management. Yeah, look at that.
I know. You should also, depending on the latest information and version available, you should ask if it can give an update on Codex or on AI, like Codex and AI. Do you know what I mean? Just ask it that. Let's see what it says about the AI updates. By the way, on the chat, I really want to call out, I love what Duncan has to say. Duncan said, I don't think harmonization is a problem of complexity. I think it's a willingness to collaborate. I want to say I concur with that. I do think that because there's cultural and different, it's not easy to sometimes communicate across the countries and different things. I agree with that comment that it is not easy to always collaborate. And that has been a point of probably a painstaking point that why we haven't seen what we need to see as far as global harmonization.
Exactly. So let's see. I started the question here and then I forgot the rest of it. Can you give me an update on Codex Alimentarius and what was the rest of it?
And AI, artificial. Yeah, it'll know. Gotcha. There you go. See what it says.
Certainly.
There it is. We got there.
Right. And this is exactly what we're talking about right here. Predictive analytics, quality control, traceability, right? So things in your plant. And so part of this, and so my piece of advice around this is just like your iPhone, right? Is you don't understand how to use these things until you play with them and figuring it out. And so with ChatGPT, this is a risk-free environment. You can do all these type of things. The danger becomes if you start thinking this is something that you can just copy and paste and use it. It's not. It's meant to be a guide.
Yes.
To help you figure these things out. But to your point earlier, Tracy, the expertise and the ability to formulate the question to get to the information that is most relevant, that doesn't go away, right? Yes. But to your point, if you don't understand this technology, you're going to be replaced by somebody who does know how to do that.
Yes, because I have been using ChatGPT since January of last year. So 2023. So nice. I've been using it for over a year and a half. And I will tell you, there were times on subjects like GRAS or I don't know if I can remember, but I'll be like, no. That's not quite right. Yeah. And I'll correct it. I'll go back and say, no. That's not what I'm looking for. I will push back on it. And I'll be like, that is not right or inaccurate, or that's not what I was looking for. Because now to the human side of it, as a subject, matter expert, right, in some of these things, I'm like, you did not hit the nail on the head. And it will come back and say, help me or help correct it. And that's interesting. So there is an element a little bit yet where you do need to kind of know your cards because it does pretty good. But like anything, it's not completely... there could be some holes and gaps yet. So be aware of that. The other thing is, if it really is a do or die, like I have written to it, even though this was not true in real life in my situation, I told it my job is depending on this. I'll say things to it like, I need this information. My job is depending on it. And it will literally kick it up a notch, like Emerald would say. It will.
Mhm.
You need to say it though like that.
Whack. Bad answer.
Yeah.
It's Sebastian says here, right, is always check the information. Sometime it can be wrong. Good advice. Cortland has a question for us here, Tracy, is because you're asking for quality information, how are we to validate this request on Chat GPT to be Part 11 compliant? So Part 11 is your electronic records. So how would you even go about doing that? That's a really good question.
Because you are asking for quality information, how are we to validate this request on ChatGPT to be part of Part 11?
Yeah.
Oh.
So really, and this is a question I think, and so one of the comments that I have on here, Tracy, is I think over time, the food industry is moving more and more under FDA regulatory frameworks more toward the pharma medical device model of doing things.
Okay. Yeah.
So within those systems, validation of data, electronic records is extremely important. So for example, on the food industry, let's say you're a CIP program for cleaning the machinery. That's an electronic record of how you are doing that, which then goes back to your verification and your validation activities.
Correct.
That has to be locked down. And so if FDA were to audit a food plant like they do a pharmaceutical company, it would be, okay, show me the change management records for this electronics. Show me that you cannot change the wash cycles associated with this without the proper procedures, et cetera, right? Very regimented, very controlled relative to electronic management. So I think and Cortland's very good at kind of looking out in the future and seeing these things, is, wow, if we're relying on these type of AI sources for information and running our operations, how do we validate and lock that down? That's, I don't know. That's a good question.
Yeah. I feel like you stumped the speaker. That's just being really raw. And it's a great question. I understand where you're coming from because you're right. We do have to have verification and validation of our data and be able to prove that this was done in real time at that time and that we didn't just fill it in like 2 seconds ago. Do you know what I mean? In case an auditor were to come. I don't know. Maybe we should ask our audience for help and do like a lifeline because
that's what's kind of cool about the chat. If anybody's got any ideas on there about how you're managing that in the food industry now, that would be really interesting.
Yeah, it's a great question. I'm definitely going to keep it in my back pocket though to think about.
and no, Cortland always brings the goods. So Sebastian had that question here as well. How do the 3.0 food safety professionals, what key skills should they master and what further training should they have? Okay. So as we're going through our topic here, how should people go out there and begin investigating this, Tracy? I think part of it you already said was, play with it, right? Is get to use it and learn it.
I think the best advice is there is nothing better. You really cannot understand something until you can experience it. At the end of the day. And even if we think about food, if you haven't had a cultural entree, like an experience, you really don't understand what it tastes and looks like and smells and all the sensory and aroma, right? You really need to take that same experience, how we as human beings value food and love to try food, and we're food industry professionals, and do that with ChatGPT or AI. You've got to get in there and experience it and sense it and understand it and learn from it. And it will learn from you too, because it's really hard to explain until you have actually experienced something. Does that simply make sense?
I think that's a good answer, because part of this is you need to play with it in order to know what questions to ask.
You do.
And so part of that key message that we're bringing through in these AI chats that we have here on the show is that garbage in, garbage out. The old computers programmer saying, if you don't know the right questions to ask and you can't evaluate the answers, and to your point, Tracy, you don't know when to push back, it's not going to be very helpful to you. We can watch a video on how to swing a golf club and have a nice, pretty swing and stuff like that.
Yep.
But until you go out and you actually swing the club and find out how crappy you really are, it doesn't really do you any good. Right? And really, I haven't seen out there yet in the food safety space courses. They're coming, I'm sure, right? Where there's going to be courses on how to use AI to manage your food safety systems. But I think at this point in time, we're still in the sandbox phase. We're still learning how to play.
That's right. And actually, I love that you gave that story because I wanted to say before you said sandbox, I wanted to say it's the same experience of you'll never know what it's like to squish your toes in the sand at a beach until you've been to the beach, right? And I do want to also add one more thing is we at IFT, to go to your previous point that we are thought leaders and we're kind of out there and we really put things ahead of the curve. We have taught 3 AI courses already. Yeah. We have done one in December of 2023 online. We did one in April of 2024 online. And we did one in July in person. And we filled the spaces. So, we actually do have that training available, and you can just reach out to us and we would be happy to help your organization or you as an individual with AI training specifically in the food industry. See, what we did was tailor ours to help food professionals across all different types of, I would say, job titles. So from product developers to engineers to food safety professionals to production, supply chain, you name it, R&D.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Good. Well, if you want more information on that, they can reach out to you.
Yes, please reach out to me. I'm on LinkedIn and also we'll make sure Brian will share my information here.
Perfect. So Codex, first pillar. Next one, allergens. How do you see AI helping with allergen management?
Yeah, I think what we'll probably see is, I would hope, enhanced detection and monitoring on the production line, right? I mean, that would be one of the ways, right? Because we should mitigate that risk as soon in the supply chain as we can. So real-time contaminant detection on pathogens, not only allergens, but also pathogens, chemical contaminants, maybe foreign object, or some people say, foreign object, or, that we have basically a pebble or something that got in the supply chain. Those things are hard to sometimes find. If you're running bushels of potatoes through, a pebble looks like a potato, right? And it doesn't get detected by the metal detector. Monitoring on production lines, I think, is going to be huge to reduce the risk of any contaminants before they get to a consumer. So I think that's one of the potential impacts of AI. I mean, we are crystal balling it here, Brian. Okay, let's not forget. But also, let's talk about supply chain. With allergens, we could have improved transparency throughout the supply chain. Still need to bring in those other opportunities like we've talked about for years, blockchain. We've talked about traceability, and we're going to have Section 204, potentially 2024 for those, or 2026 for those that are in FDA jurisdiction. Predictive maintenance on equipment too. And maybe also, what if there was some type of an allergen left over in the equipment, right? I mean, we do have the different ELISA and different tests that we have and all the beautiful allergen testing methodologies that are out there. And who those partners are. They do a great job of helping our food industry professional constituents in the production lines. But maybe there's something that AI can see or do that the tests have missed, because these are huge spaces, right? These are huge lines, equipment. There's a lot of cracks and crevices. So other things could be, what about risk assessments too? Meaning we could have maybe more dynamic risk models. We've always talked about FSMA being preventive and not reactive. So maybe AI and allergens can really help us with that advanced risk assessments and an AI in the inspection process And again, I'm riffing here. And then, regulatory compliance and decision support, FDA, USDA, CFIA, those organizations getting on board with what does it mean for them. I know they're already looking at it too, just like Codex. So good call out and hats off to them.
Yeah.
What are you thinking? Am I going too crystal ball?
Well, no, you're triggering some good thoughts here, right? So for me at this point in time it's okay if I had unlimited people resources in the plant, would I do X? So for example, let's say to your point for incoming receiving for allergens, suppliers make mistakes, and that seems to get companies a lot of times. They'll get that phone call, and it'll be, hello, oh yeah, hey, yeah, that load of wheat that we sent over to you? Yep, we got that. Yeah, we accidentally had some allergens mixed in with it. Sorry, right? Now all of a sudden you've got a recall. If I could put somebody there who could sort through the incoming wheat to make sure that there was nothing else in there that shouldn't be there, boy, that would be awesome. Okay, well, can AI do that? And if anybody's ever been to a peanut butter or a peanut nut manufacturing facility, amazing, right? The optical sorting technologies and things that agricultural companies have. You can sit and watch that stuff all day. And it's like, okay, cool. If I was to put in an optical sorting system because I know that I have a risk for cross-contamination with raw agricultural commodities that's reasonably likely to occur, that would be a good application for AI for allergen control. Let's say, for example, that AI looks at supplier risk relative to allergens, and you ask AI a question of what areas of the world are the highest risk. Let's take a real example here relative to what's going on with contamination right now with lead in spices, right? Cinnamon, big problem right now.
Yeah.
So if you were to ask AI, it's like, hey, what are the risks relative to cinnamon that are trending in the world? Oh, well, we're seeing FDA has been really doing a lot of this associated with these Apple products for children that had high contamination with lead and what was it, chromium, I believe. And it can start pointing in the direction. So think of it, to your point, Tracy, in terms of that predictive capability, right?
Yes.
It's been the holy grail of what we've always wanted to do in food safety. We're very good at corrective actions. We're not so good at preventive actions, right? We tend to jump on things after it happens.
Yeah, I'm going to have to agree with you on that. We forget the PA and kappa sometimes. So the corrective action, preventive action. Remember the PA in the kappa, right? I love where you're going with this, though, because I have actually instilled several visual factory and vision systems in my career. And so I really love the riffing on that with the cinnamon, with the lead, and can it look at the load or the raw material as the commodity is coming in? And, because normally those vision systems and the visual factory, we're really running that across the production line, and we're looking at that section of the production line. It's still maybe not quite a finished good product, but I like thinking ahead before we even get it in. And that really is the preventive action. It's sort of like taking, oftentimes, if you're pulling in huge truckloads of tomato paste or flour, if you have a silo of flour, and I grew up on a farm with silos of silage, okay, we would, with the crops, you don't want to mix in the newest load of flour in with the silo that has all of the other flour, because if something's wrong with that load and then it gets intermixed, once it's gone in that huge silo, now you have compromised product in the entire silo.
Right.
So thinking of it all the way back to even that point, but yes, even going further where the supplier themselves can use AI to use a vision system or an advanced allergen detection, AI enhanced sensors to say, this load is not what the customer wanted. We're going to have to redo it. It's not even going to go on and take a carbon footprint on the road, right? I mean, look at all those opportunities of savings, cost savings, carbon footprint savings, all the things, if we really take it to where AI could potentially help us. Mitigating the risk, there's so many things I just talked about, and there's so much risk, but we could really mitigate that. We know, Brian, for a fact, still, The number one reason why we have recalls is because of allergen mislabeling.
Yes.
It's still number one.
Yep. Now imagine, an AI camera on your production line that double checks that the packaging that's loaded in the machine is the products that's being filled in the machine.
Yep.
How many recalls would that prevent? Tons.
Yeah. Cortland's telling us he can't wait to validate that one.
Okay, let's hit our other topics here because we got four more to get through here.
Yeah.
So traceability. Where do you see AI helping with traceability? We talked about it a little bit, blockchain, which has kind of gone away. But where do you see AI helping?
So many things. I mean, whether it's KDEs or all of the terminology that we need to use with that. I think it could be from farm to fork. This is the thing. When we looked at Food Safety Modernization Act and when that passed in 2011, the farm was exempt, right? But with the traceability, now we can go to some of those further down the supply chain where we can say it came from this lot or this field or this section and actually identify it. So if we think about traceability and what its purpose is for those high risk products that it is that fall under traceability or Section 204, that is exciting because we have never quite done that before, right? Yeah. This is that last final piece of FSMA, the Section 204. So I think that AI would be able to also help mitigate risk from the farm level and at the supplier level and the commodity, the field, wherever it's coming from. We look at risk so differently in food safety. We are always on the lookout for what if scenarios. And even something like this, where let's say it doesn't matter the field. I am growing a field of something. It doesn't just pick your flavor, pick your product. It could be corn for all I care. But at the end of the day, what if you were adjacent to an almond farm and every now and then you get a really windy day and an almond gets in the batch of the corn and the corn is going to be made into potato chips? I'm just, broadly defined. Yeah. We don't normally have that allergen listed on a bag of potato chips because unless it's an almond-based product, now we have a risk because an almond got in the bushels with the corn. See what I'm saying? What if AI could help prevent those really unique, anomalies and outliers in the field when those things happen? I mean, just think about that because these things happen, Brian.
Yeah. So two key points I'm pulling out of that is AI is going to help with segmentation. So one of the things that we know in food safety is the more we can block things off from other things, the more we can control it. If you've got one gigantic lot of raw material and you run your production facility for 6 months, you've got a gigantic window of risk. The other piece of it then is this model that I use in my head of if I had unlimited ability to throw people at a problem, would I do it, right? So in your example, it's like, okay, if I could get an army of people out at that field, that cornfield, to make sure there were no almonds in it, all right, they could go through and sort through everything. Okay, great. That's not practical. Could AI do that? Yes. Yes, it could. Yeah. So, okay, I'm going to start investigating that. And how can I break down that cornfield into different sections by truckload? So if I do have a problem, I only have that one truckload to worry about, not the entire crop. So the more you can think about that, the better off you are from a traceability standpoint. Contaminants. We talked about contaminants a little bit here already. So how do you see with, heavy metals or pesticides or cross-contamination, right? You're buying from an organic farm and there's a non-organic operation close by and stuff kind of drifts over. How do you see AI helping with contaminants?
Yeah, I think AI could be a transformative change in the detection of chemical contaminants like heavy metals, like lead, cadmium, even pesticides too, Brian, making the process faster, more accurate, more efficient. So enhanced detection sensitivity, maybe using, spectrometry in some way or LCMS and AI together. And I think also, what would it be? Infrared. I think there's mass spectrometry, infrared spectrometry. Sorry for all of you who are experts in this, but I know enough to at least dabble in that. But they can detect trace levels of heavy metals and pesticides. So AI could maybe analyze the complex spectral data, because think about that. That data is being, right? It's coming out, right? And our human brain has to process all of that. Maybe AI could help analyze all that complexity in that data to identify identify trends, identify contaminants at lower concentrations than traditional methods. I mean, it's, again,
Well,
we're really crystal balling.
Well, and that's a good point. You got me thinking here as well, then, Tracy, in that part of the challenge, I think maybe this would be a good partnership between the procurement group and the food safety group. Is procurement's always looking for a good deal on raw materials, and right now companies are under tremendous pressure for profit margins and getting these products out to the marketplace and still making money.
Yeah.
And let's say, for example, that the procurement group is looking at spices and they're looking at getting spices from different areas of the world. Well, guess what? And this goes back to what we were talking about with Codex. Different countries have different rules on what's allowed and what's not. So maybe they are using pesticides in that area of the world that are outlawed in the United States. Now, as a food safety professional, I don't have time to go and research the pesticide regulations for Bangladesh. But ChatGPT can do that, right? So you could put in a question in there and work with the procurement group and say, what should I be worried about, ... And you can use that to help you figure these things out where you have knowledge gaps.
Yeah, I agree. So what you're saying is like rapid screening and automation.
Well, even what to look for, right? And that's part of the problem is you see this all the time with food fraud. You're looking for things that you don't know what you're looking for.
You don't know what you're looking for.
Food fraudsters, especially, right there, you're dealing with an active opponent who's trying to fool you. So what are those things that they are doing that you should be worried about? So I think that's a huge topic there.
For example, like grinding up, wood into really fine wood shavings, so fine that it could come across as part of the spice. Do you know what I mean? That is very hard to know. I mean, honestly, our human sense is hard to know, and wood is not, again, detectable by a metal detector. Like, you can see the problems here. So AI can maybe help tell us and take a picture and say somehow there's wood in this spice, and we would all know, well, we don't have that in a spice.
Well, so you have this floating scale of risk. Whole spices are less risky than ground spices, to your point. They can add stuff in when they grind it and you don't know. So I think definitely can help a ton in that area. The next one is regulatory activity, and especially state activity. Different states now, Tracy, are passing different laws. And I see this for my clients. Hey, California has now set these limits relative to BPA or whatever. And you have to sign letters for that state. And this gets really complicated, especially with the changes with the Supreme Court in Chevron.
So this is very complex. So I'd like to just put a plug into, we at IFT have been following this from even before day one, quite frankly. We have provided one-pager toolkit for each of the different food color additives that are available for our IFT members. But also, we have put out, we will be doing our third webinar on this topic. We did one in, March with a former FDA that was the first person who would have handled the food color additives. So we met with that person and we did that free for the public. We also met with FDA in April and did another webinar that was open. And in October, I will be conducting a third one. And I'm bringing in actually the legal side, and we'll have a lawyer and an analytical chemist. So this will be our third one in October. And that, again, is open to the public. It'll be October 11th from 12 to 1. Reach out to me if the invitation is out there. If you Google on IFT, you should be able to find it. Color additives, October 11th, IFT. But at the end of the day, what's happening here in the context of regulatory frameworks is that, FSMA focuses on the modernization of the U.S. food safety system through preventive controls, risk-based inspections, proven scientific, models, and improving the traceability and all of the things like that. But the Chevron is complex in the fact that that legal principle is related to the judicial review of the administrative regulation, right? And as it pertains to how courts review and defer agency interpretations of laws, such as FDA's FSMA. So that principle, it more than likely will directly impact the food safety regulations by influencing how regulatory agencies like the FDA enforce FSMA now going forward. And so that's still kind of being vetted out with the more, because this came right, I think, Brian, this was like about a week or 2 weeks right before our conference in July. I mean, this really kind of blew up here this summer, right? If I remember right.
Yeah.
So I know I was at the conference and I saw it right before I flew out, and we covered it at the conference. It's part of our topics. And then I remember rewriting some things to say, hey, now we got to talk about Chevron. And so I even myself don't have all the answers because it needs to get sorted out in the courts. But at the end of the day, yes, having the state run legislative actions go ahead of the federal. It won't go ahead of federal. First of all, the CFR 21 is still going to be the right now. But at the end of the day, what we need to do, though, and this is true, I'm going to have to put on a different hat here. There is a consumer perception that we have to take into account, and the consumer perception is something we do need to listen to. Okay, so I know some of you are on this call. Maybe you're not a fan of that, but we do have to listen to them. Whether it's right, wrong, or indifferent, the consumer perceptions of these things need to be heard. And we as food industry professionals need to listen, and we need to take that into account when we're looking at these state level actions, when we're looking at the federal, and it's all going to have to get sorted out. And quite frankly, it will have to get sorted out in the court systems. I mean, it's just, that's what's going to have to go.
So pay attention, more to come.
Yeah.
I think it's the best way to think about that.
Yeah.
And we're very short on time here. So I wanted to get to your sixth pillar really quickly here, Tracy, is GRAS. So how do you see AI interacting with generally regarded as safe?
Yeah, GRAS is, it's again, in itself, it's a complicated thing as far as the approval process. And I shouldn't maybe use the word complicated, but we have some substances that are determined or self-affirmed by GRAS as the manufacturer, or through a GRAS notification submitted through the FDA. We do have the past materials that were previously approved or deemed GRAS that are still adhere to the standards at the time of their approval. The key with that is you always have to look to see specifically what that would be used for and in what type of product. So, for example, let's just say, take real high level. This was approved for this in Swiss cheese, then that's what it needs to be used for. Because if you want to use it in pop or a soda, I'm sorry, it only had Swiss cheese.
Right. No, that's a really good summary. So with that, we're almost out of time here. So as we kind of bring this up to the 30,000 foot level, Tracy, what would you like to leave people with relative to AI from our chat here today?
I think AI is going to be transformative. I think you need to go back to your organizations. If you are not already having these conversations and you're not thinking about ways to incorporate it into your day-to-day work, I don't want to be the Debbie Downer, but I do think you may be left behind. And I really do mean that. You're going to have to find ways to be in the valley. When we look at Cotter's change management models, we're going to have to wallow in the valley because it's change. Brian, they always say that the only person that likes change is a baby with a wet diaper. And I'm sorry, but we're going to have to wallow in the valley to get up on the hill, right? We're going to have to go through this change management process. And the faster that you can be an early adopter to figure this out and how it works, the better. Because these 6 pillars that we have at IFT, which, again, the codex, the allergens, traceability, chemical contaminants or heavy metals, pathogens, GRAS, Those are our 6 priorities and pillars. They are all going to be impacted by AI. You're going to be impacted by AI. Brian, we can't get away from it. It's here to stay. It's sort of like how we've been talking about, aliens for decades. And I'm just saying it's something that we still need to consider as this option. I know it looks scary, but we're going to have to get in and experience it ourselves.
Right. And no, that's a really good summary. And the way to think about this is anybody who has knowledge or expertise in a particular area becomes a go-to person in a company. And within food safety and what we do, we're cutting edge. We're the people out there thinking about the future and mitigating risks for the company. So get out there and learn and embrace it and realize that, yeah, you suck. Okay, you have to learn. You have to start somewhere. When you were in grade school learning math, you just didn't say, oh my God, I give up. I'm never going to learn math. No, eventually you understand it and you get it. And part of this as well, and one of the things that we do to help people keep up to date, and I'll put it here in the comments for new people, is we have a free group on Locals where I post information on recalls and other information out there that can help you think about these things and can plug into ChatGPT as well. So with that, guys, we're going to have to bring our chat to a close. I know we could probably talk for another hour on this. Thank you, Tracy, for joining us. Fantastic information, a fire hose today. Wow, ton of information.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody. It's an honor.
And of course, as you can tell with the chat, as a newbie here on our group, is we have amazing contributors within our group. So Portland always brings it. Duncan brings it. Sebastian, everybody, thank you for the amazing comments here today. We really appreciate it. So with that, we'll bring our chat to a close here for this week. But again, we'll be back here next Friday at the same time, 8 a.m. Mountain Time, 10 a.m. Eastern on LinkedIn and YouTube, where we will live stream this conversation. So with that, we'll bring it to a close. Everybody, enjoy your weekend. Have a great time out there. Enjoy yourself. We'll do it all again next week. Thank you, Tracy, for coming on. Really enjoyed it. Have a great one. All right. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye, everybody.